Called the 18th Camel. Anybody ever hear of this story? So it's an old Sufi story, I think. Yeah, I think it comes from that tradition. Anyway, so the story goes that there are this kind of guy is on a camel. He's riding through a desert, you see, and he comes along to the edge of a kind of an oasis. And as he's coming off the desert plain, he's coming into this oasis, this village area. He sees three men weeping, hears them really, and sees them weeping very loudly. So he gets off his camel and he goes over and he says, "Are you okay? Is they're distressed?" And they were three brothers, and the eldest brother starts speaking for the others and says, "Well, our father passed away in the last few days, so obviously we're very upset." And the guy who rode in on the camel kind of extends his condolences. So "I'm sorry for your loss." And then the older brother speaks again. He says, "But that's not the real reason why we're crying. We're crying out of frustration." So the guy kind of rode in on the camel, kind of intrigued. He said, "Do you mind me asking you why?" And the elder brother said, "Well, our father in his last will and testament left us all his worldly possessions, right? Which amounted to 17 camels. And he basically said, because in our traditions, the oldest brother kind of gets the most. So basically what he said is that I, as the eldest brother, could get half of all of his worldly possessions, you see. That the second eldest guy could get a third of all his worldly possessions, and the youngest guy could get a ninth. But we're just driven crazy, because how do you work that through with 17 camels? It just doesn't work out. Like half of 17, a third of 17, and it doesn't work out. So this guy anyway, who came in his camel, kind of one of these compulsive rescuers, right? Just has to help, right? So he thinks, I know what you need to do, right? Rushes in with the solution, says, "Well, just take my camel. I don't need it. And then you'll have 18 camels." And the eldest brother said, "No, in our culture, we're raised not to accept gifts from strangers." And anyway, the guy who rode in the camel says, "Well, you won't be, because I intend to ride out on the same camel I rode in on. But I still know that if you accept my gift, you'll be able to fulfill your father's wish." So this stage, they were really intrigued. Who is this guy? Is he some kind of magician or whatever? So anyway, they were so intrigued, they said, "In for a penny, in for a pound," and they went along with it. They accepted the 18 camel, and then they started doing the math. So you just do this with me now, in case you think I'm playing any tricks here, right? So, hang on a sec. So the eldest guy gets half of 18, which is, yeah, great. And then the second eldest guy gets a third of 18, which is 6. And then the youngest guy fares out the worst. He only gets a ninth of 18, which is 2. Add all those up. 17. So he rode out on the camel he rode in on. So the story is helpful, because I think it asks you the question, what's the 18th camel in your equation? Right? I know what the 17 camels are, your projects, your programs, your governance, your I get all of that. You're brilliant at that, we know that. But what's the 18th camel? Right? And I think the 18th camel is community animation. It's the pedagogy rather than the product. It's the process, not the product. And we all know this. I mean, anybody would say to you, of course, yeah, process. We've been too focused on the product. But I think it's important to really unpack that. So what is the process? What is the pedagogy? We said being a gardener. What does that mean? So to an extent, sometimes as an outsider or an alongsider, what you're really trying to do is create the conditions within which that 18 camel equation can happen, right? Because people, for whatever reason, are locked into a story where 17 just does not go, or 2 and 70 or whatever it might be. It's just not working out. So they have assets, they have resources, but somehow they can't discover how to connect those or mobilize them into action that's sustainable. And so, out of desperation or the need to kind of move forward, they ebb away their power. And slowly but surely things get more professionalized because, of course, how would we know how to do this? And so you recruit somebody who does, and before you know it, all your camels are leaving the oasis. So just a little story that I thought might be helpful to hang on to. I told that story 22 years ago at an event in Amsterdam, and there's now a little social enterprise called the 18th Camel. And